The question has been put in the news today, why are Trump and Putin not meeting? And there's a series of rational solutions that are presented. The real solution is in the bombing of Kharkiv and the kindergarten. The Kremlin is an inhumane and vengeful organization with ice in its heart, and Putin and his cronies can be described with very simple words, and none is repeatable here. There is nothing rational or reasonable about the Kremlin's behaviour or that of its poodles, the trolls and the propagandists who may be represented in the comments section claiming that Russia is winning or that we're misrepresenting the great motherland. There is no misrepresenting. There's no misrepresentation here at all. Putin is a shit and needs to crawl back in his fridge and be done with infecting the rest of his nation with his evil. Now, the point is painfully clear. You do not cancel a summit because your diary is busy. You cancel because reality intrudes. And in the small hours of the 22nd of October, Russia fired 28 missiles and sent 405 drones against Ukraine. A kindergarten in Kharkiv was hit. A young mother and her two daughters were killed near Kyiv. These are not abstractions. They are names that should have been on school registers this morning. Let's fix the timeline. On Tuesday afternoon in Washington, President Trump shelved his Budapest meeting with Putin, saying he didn't want a wasted meeting. Within hours, the missiles and the drones came. The message from Moscow is not difficult to decode. Diplomacy to the Kremlin is not the art of compromise, it's the art of an intermission between air raids. Consider the facts today. According to Ukraine's Air Force, the overnight barrage targeted energy and rail infrastructure across 10 different regions. Emergency blackouts have followed. Entire towns and cities have been blacked out. Linesmen and firefighters did the work of saints while children were carried from burning buildings. This is not war, as any sane individual would recognize. It is terrorism dressed up in fatigues. Kharkiv's kindergarten was struck while 48 children and staff were inside. By luck and drill, they were in a shelter. One adult was killed, several were injured, and an entire cohort of children was left shaking. Spare me the lectures about nuance. Hitting a school is not complex, it's wrong. Full stop. Moscow paired those strikes with theatre. President Putin supervised a triad drill. A Yars intercontinental ballistic missile from Plesetsk, a Sineva from a submarine in Barents, cruise missiles from Tu-95 MS. The choreography is familiar, the timing is deliberate. When diplomacy falters, the Kremlin flashes the keys to its nuclear vault. And it's a tired trick, but still it's a dangerous one. And what of the not meeting? The White House spoke of prudence, Kyiv spoke of cause and effect. As President Zelensky put it, the moment long-range missiles from Ukraine drifted further from view, Russia became less interested in diplomacy. That observation is as bleak as it is accurate. When leverage goes down, cruelty goes up. And yet Europe didn't sit still today. In Linköping, Sweden signed a memorandum with Ukraine aimed at an eventual sale of 150 Gripen fighters. This is long-term, not immediate, but it signals two things. First, Europe understands air defence is the hinge of the war. Second, Moscow's attempt to terrorize civilians is having the opposite effect. It tightens the coalition. So why are Trump and Putin not meeting? Because a meeting without pressure is pageantry. Putin has two standing demands. Ukraine must disarm and surrender its territory. Ukraine rightly refuses. If Washington will not move long-range systems now, and if Europe is still scaling production, then there's no leverage that would force Putin to accept a ceasefire along the current line, hence no meeting. The Kremlin, for its part, insists preparations continue. A familiar pretense that allows it to blame others while it keeps bombing. So permit me to offer three concise arguments. First, we need to stop the moral laundering. Words like freeze and line of contact are euphemisms that hide a simple reality. Russia is trying to bomb a neighbour into capitulation while demanding legal cover for theft. If a mugger fails to take your wallet at knife point, he doesn't acquire the claim to your cash because he kept you cornered for 40 minutes. The same is true of oblasts. Second, stop rewarding theatrical ambiguity. Moscow alienates or alternates between the velvet glove of summit talk and the iron fist of mass strikes. We should treat both as a single manoeuvre. When the bomb falls on Kharkiv and a kindergarten burns, the pretense of mutual desire for talks is not just hollow, it's insulting to the dead. Third, act on the only leverage that moves the dial: capability, cash and coordination. Capability means air defence, counter-drone, long-range precision and mobile generation to blunt the winter energy assault. Cash means ring-fencing, financing from frozen Russian assets with minimal conditionality. Coordination means Europe and North America synchronizing deliveries so that Russia cannot game the gaps. The Kremlin line tonight, or today, is as predictable as rain. It will say the barrage was a reply to a Ukrainian strike on a chemical plant in Bryansk. Set aside the obvious difference between hitting a dual-use plant, supporting munitions, and incinerating a family home. Even on its own terms, the argument is self-indicting. Moscow is admitting it targets civilians to retaliate for a military strike on its war industry. That is the language of reprisal against innocence, not of law. Where does that leave policy by Friday? On air defence, the surge interceptors need to be. We need to be intercepting. Short term, that means Patriots, Iris-T, NASAMS, C-RAM and layered counter UAS. Every blackout avoided in November will save lives in January. On the long-term strike, ambiguity is not strategy. Either provide systems that raise the cost of Russian attacks on energy infrastructure or accept that Moscow will keep testing the grid. Saying maybe invites missiles. On energy, fund mobile generation and repair and rapid repair kits at scale. Ukraine's grid is a battlefield treated as such. On aircraft, convert today's Swedish letter of intent into a pathway with training, munitions and maintenance. A promise that never lands is a promise that never deters. On narrative, stop pretending there is symmetry. One side is shooting at kindergartens and power plants. The other is trying to keep the lights on and the kids alive. Say it plainly. A final word on clarity. The Kremlin wants us to drown in a fog. Numbers without context, meetings without outcome, statements without dates. So, hold on to the few facts that you can cut through. On the 22nd of October 2025, Russia launched 28 missiles and 405 drones. It hit a kindergarten in Kharkiv. It killed a mother and her children near Kyiv. It ran a nuclear drill for spectacle. It then claimed to want a summit. That sequence is not an argument for peace talks. It's an indictment.